Is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Only Football Podcast, where we only talk about NFL football. And that's why, after the draft, I had to bring in my brother, longtime childhood friend, college football expert, Jake Mordecai. What's up, man?
I gotta say, this is a pretty cool thing you got going on here, man. So let's have some fun with it.
Yeah, let's have some fun. So the draft just happened, and I like I said, I don't watch college football, so the extent of what I know is a player gets drafted and I go to YouTube, I type that player's name in and I watch a
Hmm.
highlight video and I go to the comments and they say whoever gets this guy is going to get a steal almost no matter whose video you're watching. Now here's the thing. If you're trying to, assess a player, watching their highlights isn't a good way to do that. I got to see what they do wrong. I got to see what their weak spots are. So then you go to, let's say, Ohio State, Clemson. I'm going to watch the highlights of the football game. Unless it's an offense or defensive, lineman, you're still only watching highlights. If a wide receiver drops 3 passes, it's not going to make the highlight film unless it was a high value drop, maybe in the end zone or something. But for the most part, unless you have access to full football games, and nobody has time for that. So we just watch highlight videos. That's why I bring you in, because that's your bread and butter, college football. That's what you do. So you watch every game. You know college like I know the NFL. And unless you're really watching, you're just kind of you're just guessing. You're like, oh, he looks good. Of course he looks good. It's a highlight video. So um, let's start off with, who do you think in the first round, what stood out to you? Not necessarily teams. We can stay away from, oh, this team is going to be good with him. Just player. What were the best players that you believe were drafted in the first round outside the quarterback position?
Well, first thing I just want to touch on really quick, just team theme wise, I thought it was wild that Jameer Gibbs went so quick. Um, when we thought we had a clear consensus number one running back with Bijan Robinson out of Texas, so seeing it be Atlanta is just kind of it's kind of funny. I think they're slowly transitioning from uh, just taking a position that they're already loaded at and trying to build off of that to just going and getting unnecessary skill position on the offensive side. So, I mean, he's probably going to be a good player. But I thought that was interesting. And then just looking at the Philadelphia Bulldogs and what they're becoming,
Yeah.
2 years in a row, taking two defenders in the first round from one collegiate program is wow. If just the chops that the Bulldogs are able to talk with right now, as far as their program and what they are producing at the NFL level, is something that we really haven't seen at this scale, except for maybe Alabama a couple years back. But this is just beyond impressive what Kirby's doing at Georgia.
Yeah, because I,
Um,
I was going to say, it feels like, and by the way, Jinja Ninja is in the comments section. If you hit the comments, you actually have access. You could view those too while we're going through here. But he's a longtime fan of the channel. And he said, wash hands. What's up, Jake? Nice to meet you. What's up, Kyle? What does wash hands mean? Is that an inside joke that I'm late on?
am I
Um,
dirty?
I don't know. Should we go wash our hands? So no, I was gonna say, I felt like
I'd like to see the
Alabama.
comments. Can you? Oh, I
You got
as
it.
soon as I asked the question, I got it.
So I do think that Alabama has dominated. We've seen Alabama win a lot of national championships, but as far as bringing players into the NFL that are as effective, I understand what you're saying. Like, Georgia does seem like they're having multiple. How many first round picks? We know that they had 1, 2 for Derek Jones, their offensive lineman, 3. Um, so 3 Georgia Bulldogs in the first round. That's impressive, and that's not even including all the other Bulldogs that ended up actually dropping. They have one of their cornerbacks, uh, Kineo. the cornerback, blanking on his name right now because I
Ring,
don't have my notes up, but he fell
Ringo.
way. What's his name?
Ringo.
Yeah, Ringo. He was falling down. I wanted somebody to scoop him up, and it was the Steelers. And the Steelers, they capitalized on cornerbacks falling. I wanted to ask you also, what's your opinion on Joey Porter Jr. because he fell all the way to the second round, and Pittsburgh immediately moves up to get Joey Porter, and then Ringo falls also, and then Pittsburgh gets another dude that I think could be good. So, what do you think of those? What do you think of Joey Porter? Do you think he got picked too early, too late?
No, no. I hate to be that guy, but he's pedigree. Just look at his dad. You think what you're going to get with him is a stocked up, more small frame guy, but he's not. He's a long and rangy corner. Top end speed isn't elite by any means, but it's not going to be his downfall. Uh, I'm going to say this a couple times with some players probably tonight, but instincts are definitely there if you just watch the game. So I like where he is. I would definitely go with him before a couple of the other guys, including the one you just previously mentioned, to be honest with you. I think that Ringo is nothing but has nothing but upside as far as his athletic potential. But from what we've seen, he can be picked on and picked on early and often when there is an adequate receiver on the other side of him, which you get to see a good amount of times when you're in the SEC. So I think that he is on film a lot, being out of place and beat, to just put it simply, just being beat. But people took the chance on him because of his athletic upside. So I'm not going to hate on it, but you're going to have to prove it to me if you're Kylie Ringo.
Yeah, and my bad because I confused. So Corey Trice is a cornerback out of Purdue, and he's the guy that fell all the way to the sixth round. And you know that you kind of criticized earlier the draft prospects and the way they value players. Corey Trice was best available as per their sheets for 3 rounds, and nobody picked him. He is 6'3", 206 pounds. So that's the other guy the Steelers got at the cornerback position. But he was considered the 15th ranked cornerback in the draft, almost into the 7th round. I mean, that's pretty good value. But why do you think that these people that get paid six figures to scout these players are constantly getting it wrong? It's a hard question, but
I think the system's a little outdated, and I think it's turning. I think it's more of a metric system than anything. And if you don't understand what I'm talking about, just watch the NFL Combine and watch the NFL Draft, because all they're going to be showing you is verticals 40 times and measurables. And those are important, but and obviously they have to put up some numbers, but game film's being lost. I mean, you're losing people that are making those reads and being able to dissect a half second faster than the next person, and that matters, especially at the highest level. So I think at a simple level, that's it. But also, it's hard. That is a hard thing to do. It, Guys that everyone thought were for sure ended up not producing. Don't want to say bust because I think that's an overused phrase, but a lot of guys that just didn't end up being able to produce what they thought the experts thought that they were going to. So there's no exact science to it, but if I'm going to do one thing first, it's going to be watch the game tape.
yeah, and that's why for me I value mock drafts before the combine, because you just have people valuing what they saw on tape, and
Yeah.
that is really important. Yesterday I was watching a game. Like I said, I was trying to watch tape of a defensive lineman out of Oregon that Bill, by the way, Bill is in the chat. How's it going, Bill? He said, wasn't expecting a stream tonight. So hopefully you enjoyed this surprise. But I was trying to see about this guy that got picked in the 7th round out of Oregon. We both, the Broncos and he's a Giants fan, both took an Oregon player. We took their center almost at the Mr. Irrelevant spot, 3 away from the last pick in the last round. And then Jordan Riley is a defensive tackle at Oregon, but he was a transfer and he only played 1 year there. So anyway, I was watching a game, and on the bottom of it, because it was an old game, it had Mel Kiper's top whatever for the draft. And it had, Carter, Jalen Carter. Am I saying that right?
Jalen Carter.
Jalen
Here's
Carter.
a guy, Jalen Carter.
No, hold on. What's his name? Stop messing with me.
Yeah,
Jalen Carter. That is his name. Okay. Jalen Carter out of Georgia was supposed to go number 1, and then, he lost that spot because of the off the field stuff, racing cars. But my point is I was watching that Mel Kiper thing, and it had CJ Stroud at number 15. And then he goes to the combine, and he had a great combine. I mean, his throws were perfect. You had people saying, like, this was one of the best throwing performances. And there's some people that are victim of the moment type deal. But I was watching the entire thing, and he was spot on every throw. He may have had 2 throws. They were catchable and they were caught, but they could have been better. But overall, it was really impressive. And then he moves up, obviously, to number 2 and gets picked at 2. So like you said, man, they look at the measurables a lot, and they look at those drills a lot. But that's not... Look, it's just a receiver running routes. There's nobody covering him. You're not reading defenses. Everybody probably, I bet we could look pretty good out there with just a receiver running routes, until we get to those 60-yard bombs. But all that underneath stuff, I'm sure we could get away with it. Yeah, there's no one covering him. But then he moves up all the way to number 2. So Anthony Richardson had one of the most athletic-wise. And now I know, disclaimer, he's a Florida State fan, and if there's one thing that he would love to remove from planet Earth, it would be a Florida Gators helmet. And we're going to try to be unbiased here. But Anthony Richardson did have, athletic-wise, one of the most impressive combine workouts of any player since they started tracking the data. High jump, 40-yard dash. He was an alien out there. But his team wasn't even 500 last year. And, you saw all these Gators. We talked about this earlier. There was 6 Gators that got drafted, but yet they were under 500. And yet they have their quarterback going number 4 overall. What am I missing here? Because Will Levis got bounced all the way to the 2nd round, but he was at Kentucky with probably a lot less talent. Is Anthony Richardson overrated? Or does he have potential, do you think? Because it honestly doesn't really make sense when you look at, okay, so Florida had a good team, but they didn't have a good season. What is that?
So I don't really want to talk about Florida as much because that's going to get detracting pretty fast. Yeah. Florida is, in my mind, going through things that are bigger than just talent alone. For a Florida State fan that saw what Norvell had to go through with the culmination of Jimbo Fisher and Willie Taggart and having to just completely flesh out a whole locker room. I think we're seeing that to some scale right now. With Florida, Billy wants to bring in his own culture for whether he's doing it the right way or not. I'm going to let that play out. I think as a rival, it's easy to say that other teams are benefiting because they're losing a lot of talent to the NFL, as you see, and they didn't do anything with it. And it's not the easy poke joke is, okay, your coach can't do anything with talent. But like I said, it's deeper than that. I think that they have deficiencies on a lot of levels.
Coaching.
And I think it was just, I think that they have some guys that they're not going to be on the staff next year for sure. And we already saw some guys leave. So let's see if they get it right. But
Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson is from a guy that I knowing his quarterbacks coach, Denny Thompson from 6 Points.
Mm-hmm.
I used to intern for him for just a little bit, a couple months.
He did his pro day thing at Ponte Vedra, by the way. That's where Jake lives. So I thought that was interesting because an article came out 3 days before the draft, and it was him saying I'm an alien, and he did a private workout for, to boost his stock, doing backflips and shit. I mean, the guy's crazy, but he was in Ponte Vedra. Is he from Ponte Vedra? It didn't say why he was in Ponte Vedra and not Gainesville.
No, I'm sure it just worked out with the time. I don't think 6 Points, the actual clinic, is there. I'm not positive, but they were they at Ponte Vedra High School or were they at some indoor facility?
It didn't say. The story just said in the very beginning, Ponte Vedra, Florida,
Gotcha.
and then it was the article.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. But that is the quarterbacks coach, one of his stomping grounds. He's over here in the First Coast area, Jacksonville area.
Maybe Nice. Maybe Nice. Are they still Nice is where Tim Tebow went to high school, and it's also where Jake went to high school. My brother went there for a year, and look, Tim Tebow was homeschooled, and they were going to go to whatever school had the best opportunity for Tim to go to the NFL, and they picked Nice. That's how serious of a football program it is. I think it has loosened up since is the head coach still there? That was there when Tebow was there?
Oh no, we've had quite some turnover. I'm not sure who it is, but it's gonna be interesting to see how long that they will stick with AR. I'm curious to see if they start him right away. I don't know if they don't have an option to make that pick and not with the other quarterbacks they have in the room.
Gardner Minshew is the other quarterback. So
yeah, Gardner's actually pretty solid.
I know. I like Gardner Minshew.
I don't dislike Gardner.
And I think he's the perfect guy because no ego, just kind of happy to be here. But also he's been on a lot of teams, so he's a veteran at this point. He knows the ropes.
He knows how to win.
He knows how to win. They called it Minshew Mania, right? So
yeah.
I actually thought he got a bad deal in Jacksonville that 1 year. But that's a whole nother thing. So yeah, I don't know if they're going to start him right away. It does seem like, hey, that's really high to not start your guy, but we've seen franchises try to do that. Trey Lance was drafted, and Jimmy Garoppolo was supposed to be his mentor. And then Jordan Love is taken over for Aaron Rodgers. And it seems like a lot of times it just doesn't work out. But it's really hard to find a really good quarterback. And I was watching a video today about people that have slid in the first round. So Johnny Manziel falling, as far as he did. And it was just kind of it was a video that made me realize how much misses there are in the draft. Like it was during, I think it was Geno Smith. Geno Smith was another guy that was falling, and he thought Cleveland was going to draft him, and they ended up drafting a cornerback instead. That was the highest rated cornerback. And I was like, who is this dude? And I Google him, and it was like he played 2 seasons with the Browns, and then he got traded to the Steelers, played half the season, and never returned to football. This is a 13th overall pick in the first round, and he played like 12 snaps. I just, that to me is like,
corner's one of those positions.
Corner's how can you miss that hard?
It's hard. It is hard.
Patrick Surtain, when he got drafted, it was like everybody knew that he was going to be amazing. Like part of it was because Von Miller was like, I've never seen a player come into the NFL as polished as this guy is. And that he had that upbringing where he was always at camp because his dad was in the NFL. So, but I just feel like if you're going to draft a player in the first round, as confident as you are about how we were with Patrick Surtain, you have to feel that way about your guy. There's high risk, high reward.
You can't, you can feel that way. Doesn't mean it's going to be that way. So that's, that's
so you think the Colts feel that way about Richardson?
You have to. You absolutely have to. I'm not saying he can't. I'm he torched Florida State for 3 touchdowns. Um, 2 of them were gimmies. Showed a great ball just like he did in the combine. Still, it looked like a great ball and it was effortless. But that will not be there for him at the next level. It will not. That will not show its face.
Well, then he didn't really torch Florida State if he just hit wide open receivers.
Oh, I'm just saying as far as if you just look at the numbers.
Oh, okay.
He put up a lot of yards. So there, but there's nothing scaring me about Anthony Richardson, unless he gets outside of the tackles and he's running upfield. And then, boys, look out because he is a freak. But yeah, inside the pocket, he's there's nothing scaring me there. I thought Will Levis was drafted too high. I thought
you thought Will Levis was drafted too high?
I thought they both. Yeah, I think they both are. I think quarterback is a position people are so desperate to try to get some guy that they are willing to. You have to. We're at the point where everyone's doing it. I would equate it to the transfer portal in college football with left tackles and quarterbacks. It is so limited and so few teams have their guys that there is such a high a big pay gap between those positions and all the other ones. No matter if they can play or not, it's just the market value is so high for them.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, the day before the draft, I said that on this show. I said the last quarterbacks to go where you're just like, yeah, he's going to be great for at least 15 years, 15 to 18, was Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. And it was like, yeah, next question. This year, I was like, I don't think any of these quarterbacks. Now,
yeah,
one of them could pop, but let's not pretend like Bryce Young's the best quarterback in this draft class. But if you throw him in a draft class with, Trevor Lawrence's or Joe Burrow's, Bryce Young's not going number 1 overall. So I just say that to manage expectations. Quarterbacks are the highest value, but I think that's kind of the biggest hinder when you're trying to scout one, because you're willing to take a huge risk because you need a quarterback, but you ultimately end up overvaluing quarterback talent. I know that because we were looking for a quarterback for 11 years. And if next year doesn't pan out, we'll probably be looking for one still. So, people try, but.
Yeah, I want to address this question. I don't think it was a horrible pick because here's the thing. The game is so fast right now. He is what he is. He is a very highly drafted guy that has money behind him. And 1 year of him not showing it to you guys, but not having on-field play, and he's still an unknown gem that another team will take a chance on. And if he does get played and he's not looking good, it will only be a couple of bad blemishes and rookie mistakes that another team will take a chance on. So you guys will be able to recoup it, or you'll get some of your investment back, or it'll be a great investment that you're going to want to hold in the pocket for a little bit.
Kind of like Trey Lance. Like, he's still, we know nothing about Trey Lance in year 3.
Exactly.
He gets hurt. He played one game.
On the open market right now,
he'd still be worth. Yeah, I think.
Something.
Probably.
Something.
I thought that the Colts should have offered a first-round pick for Trey Lance, to be honest, because Trey Lance is, I don't know. I thought Trey Lance was a little more, he looks a little bit better than Anthony Richardson, but Anthony Richardson might have more of an upside if it works out. But you also got a guy that's been in the league now 3 years. He kind of understands the ropes, and it sucks what happened to him. He waits a whole year and then he plays one game in a tornado, basically, in Chicago, and then gets hurt for the rest of the season. And now here's this guy that the 49ers are lucky, though, because they have done so well in the draft and trading people, getting like CMC, that they're in a position where it doesn't really matter if Trey Lance works out or not. But they want to get that 3rd overall pick. that's a high investment, man. Like that
Yeah.
is a high investment. So,
Yeah.
um,
I want to bring up the quarterback that I like the most out of over the
can
three
I
over.
guess?
Sure.
Okay,
Can I describe it better to you?
please.
Besides Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, which I put both in a very similar mold, um, not necessarily game style, but frame and throwing ability. So one of them will pop. One of them will be a player in the NFL for a good minute, and I'm pretty confident in saying that. But out of the big body guys, all behind them, there is a guy that I would have taken over both AR and Hendon Hooker. And I know we get a lot of flack on it just being a different guy, but numbers wouldn't tell me I'm wrong. And they play in the same conference. So it's not like the competition's any different.
They're in the same conference.
Yeah. Not making it much fun for you, but
No, that helps a little bit. I'm trying to think. I think I was gonna say Stenson Bennett.
oh God, no.
No,
That guy's gonna have his own wing place in the next couple of years.
is he gonna
Pretty
be
sure.
like Colt McCoy?
He's gonna be something, man.
ah,
I was actually talking about Hendon Hooker. Uh,
I thought that was too obvious. I was trying to be different.
I love Hendon Hooker's game.
Yeah.
Um, he has better numbers. I can pull him up. I can't just say I need to. He has better numbers than Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. I'm pretty sure of.
Well, he got them all against Alabama.
Yeah, and like something to be said about that too. The guy's a game player.
Ginger went Bennett. We were both thinking Bennett. Uh, I was just trying to I was trying to be different. I thought Hendon Hooker was the first guy I thought of. But I was like, a lot of people were trying to figure out he was injured late in the season, right? Hendon Hooker.
He was.
And yeah, when I followed the draft this year because of the show, man, I was following it closer than any other draft. And one of the things that I didn't realize that I think is kind of dumb on the owners and GMs is that the injured player will drop so far, and it's kind of incredible. It's like what is the big concern with a guy? Oh, he had a tight hamstring, he couldn't run the 40. It's like guess what? People in the NFL get tight hamstrings and can't play for a couple games. It's incredible. First round talent will drop to the 5th round because a guy couldn't run his 40-yard dash. But you have all the tape that says that he should be a 1st or 2nd round pick. And yeah, I just find that kind of incredibly dumb on a lot of the GMs.
I cannot combat that.
So did you find those stats?
It's weird. As soon as they go to the NFL, the college stats don't want to pull up as easily. But yeah, they're coming. So
Yeah, I can pull them up here too and read them off. Do you want just last year's stats or like overall?
I think last year he had over 3,000 yards of passing.
Yeah.
Interception ratio. Okay. He destroys their numbers. He was 27-2 last year. His touchdown to interception ratio was 27-2. Just for some comparison, I gotta pull. Do you have Will Levis pulled up? Because I'm
I
gonna
can
go
pull it up.
slow.
Yeah,
you get Will Levis. I'm gonna get Anthony Richardson. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Let's do that. Perfect. Because this is gonna be a big gap right here. And numbers aren't everything. You gotta look at tape, obviously, but
yeah, Will Levis just kind of popped in my I feel like nobody was really thinking about him until the offseason, and then it was like Will Levis. It's just almost like we need more quarterbacks for some controversy. Will Levis, that'll do. All right, so in 2022, so for his first 3 years, he was at PSU, and then he transferred to Kentucky his last 2 seasons, probably so he could start because he only played top. He played 8 games at PSU. Um, then he got 13 and 11 his last 2 seasons. He threw last year for 2,406 yards, but he was injured and missed a couple games. And his last 2 throws in college football were both touchdown passes. That's kind of cool. But the only season he played an entire 13 games was 2021, and he had 2,800 yards, 66 completion percentage. He had 24 touchdown passes and 13 picks. He rushed 107 times for 376 yards. So that's like what, 2 yards, not maybe 3 yards a carry. And then he had 9 rushing touchdowns. Nothing that just pops off your screen.
Okay, before I go back to AR, I want to finish, since you were talking about percentages and stuff, and you mentioned the rushing. We were at 70%, 69.6%, 329 attempts, and was good for 229 of them. And then rushing was not a slouch. I remember, but hey, it's not mentioned here. He is mobile though. And then numbers wise, AR is the worst out of all of them. Just looking at last year, he only had 2,500 yards. I mean, only, that's not bad. Completion percentage was 53%. And he was 17 and 9. So for 17 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Didn't miss any games, played in all 12 games. And then rush for 700 yards, almost 656 yards and 9 touchdowns.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, as an H-back, it's really good. And it's just, I don't see how you're, like, those numbers, like, how is that getting drafted so high? That's my only argument. I see the upside. You're crazy if you don't.
He also led college football in yards per pass attempt. And that makes sense because the receiver that Bill drafted, Tennessee's best receiver, the speedy guy in the slot, I can't remember his name right now.
Kadarius Toney.
No, he's in the NFL already. This was just last year. Oh. They drafted him in the 3rd round. He was actually, they traded up to get him. It might have been early in the 4th round. Here, I got it right here. The Giants.
Oh, yeah, it's Kadarius Toney.
No, Kadarius Toney is old now. It was Jalen Hyatt. Hyatt. Thank you guys. Jalen Hyatt led college football in yards per reception. So it just shows.
Wait, you're talking about Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why I didn't get it.
Yeah, I was saying Hendon Hooker.
Oh, you're looking at Hooker's
led
numbers.
College football in yards per pass attempt.
I thought we were talking about AR still. I was like, that doesn't seem right, but I'm gonna let you go.
Oh no,
no, that makes sense. Yeah.
No, yeah, not even close. Anthony Richardson is 47th.
Yeah.
In pass yards per pass attempt. Jordan Travis was 5. Florida State's quarterback. He's going to be. See a first rounder next year?
No. I mean, maybe he has to. Florida State really has to do some things in order for that to even be a conversation.
They make it to the playoffs then?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to at least get to the playoffs. Most likely win a playoff game or win the whole thing for him to be like a Heisman guy for this to be a thing. And again, obviously Heisman's before the playoffs start, but they'd have to beat LSU and beat Clemson in the ACC title game for this to be a conversation. So
okay.
Florida State would be playing really good football coming up in October if that was the case.
Yeah. So, all right. So we went into the quarterbacks a little bit.
And I want to say one more thing, just to double down on this. Jalen Hyatt does not play in the Pac-12. Or Hendon Hooker does not play in the Pac-12. He does not play for mid Tennessee. He plays in the exact same conference and playing the exact same talent level that both the other quarterbacks that we were dissecting him against with. So we're going to see, and I'm excited. This is why the draft is fun.
CJ Stroud's third, but he had 500 more pass yards. So,
yes.
I mean, CJ Stroud also had elite receivers, you know, not just last year, but even the year before when they still had who's drafted to the New Orleans Saints, Chris Olave. And so I do keep that in mind because there's a lot of Alabama quarterbacks that the numbers look really good, but then you're like, wait, they had Devontae Smith, Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy?
Ohio State and Alabama, we're talking about the same situation right there. It's insane the talent level they had.
But then
not Alabama so much anymore.
How do you step back and think, okay, how do I grade this guy? Because let's say
it's on a curve. It's on a curve.
Yeah, it's on a curve for sure. And then you got to figure out what's real. It's like, okay, so Mac Jones, you know, his numbers are great.
I think, and again, I'm sorry to cut you off. This is where it gets down. Like, do you have a guy that's watching that film that can see? First of all, are you getting all 2020? Are you getting all 22 film? Are you getting film where you're seeing these safeties? Which leads to my question. It all is good if you're seeing him make that decision before they're wide open. If he's knowing his guys, and again, that's still you're being able to trust these dudes that you can obviously trust easily because they're uber talented. But still, I want to see him making that throw before the DB has his hips turned and he's already beat. I want to see some timing, and I want to see.
I was about to say timing. You know, if you can throw that back shoulder where, you know, you run downfield and the ball's already out of his hands, and then that receiver turns around and it's like, dude, that timing, perfect word. Because then you're like, okay, if you can throw that ball in college, then you can throw that ball in the NFL. And that is kind of that. Are there other throws like the back shoulder that you kind of value? You're like, you see that and you're like, that's the real deal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 20-yard out.
20-yard out.
15, 20-yard out, opposite hash.
Oh yeah, it's a 50-yard throw.
We're talking about the hardest throw in football, and it's not like we're not asking kids to do that like every day or every Saturday now. So yeah, it's not like you can't find it. I want to see, are you able to laterally get the ball securely out of your hands upfield for that anywhere between that 15 to 20-yard completion area, because it's a big throw.
Yeah. So Bill says Back had to take out the trash. Then he said his mom went on Twitter. He's talking about Jalen Hyatt. He went on Twitter to ask us Giants fans to take good care of her boy, and Giants Twitter loves it and is going nuts. She is famous as he is now. So the Giants got themselves a team mom. That's awesome. Jinja said, Napier at Florida sucks, though. Tennessee brought in that new coach that seems to be a dog. Way better coaching over in Knoxville. Throwing guys open is super underrated trait. My Uncle Wolf works for a dude that's like a billionaire, and he has his own private plane, and he flies every Saturday to Knoxville from Nashville to go to the Vols games. And he took my uncle with him a couple times, and they're like in a box seat having a great time. And I was like, well, it's a good era, you know, to have those type of seats.
Hey, old Rocky Top.
7-10 years ago, Tennessee was not great. You know,
same amount of people in the stands though. Those people show up.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yeah,
I've always kind of liked Tennessee because of Manning, to be honest.
I don't dislike Tennessee.
They're not hurting anybody, you know.
Yeah, no,
they beat Alabama.
They take care of Florida for me every year, and I got no qualms with them.
Yeah, so does Appalachian State. All right, so let's go to defense. Who's your favorite? Let me do a two-part question. Devin Witherspoon was picked as the first cornerback out of Illinois, and I always say if you're going number one overall and you go to Illinois, then
He's a dog.
you got it, And then I was gonna say, who do you think slipped a little bit, specifically Nolan Smith, all the way to 30? When when the Eagles took Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter, I was like, dude, they stole the draft. They take a guy that's supposed to go number one overall. He falls all the way to 9, and there's Philly picking him up. And then they wait patiently, and Nolan Smith somehow falls all the way to 30, mostly because teams were just addressing what they needed and not the highest value. And then there are the Eagles, Nolan Smith. So how do you feel about Nolan Smith? Who's your favorite defensive player in the first round that was picked? And do you think Devin Witherspoon was the best corner? I know that was a lot, but
I'm sorry, what was the first question again?
How do you feel about Nolan Smith?
I think it's hard to say that a guy fell so much when you is getting picked in the first round. So I hate to like blow that out of proportion.
Well, he was the second ranked linebacker.
Yeah.
So it was, and the number one was Tyree Wilson.
And he's going to end up putting his hand in the ground too. So he'll end up playing defensive end most likely.
Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson was number 1, and he was picked at number 3 overall. And then the number 2 guy almost falls out of the first round.
Yeah. I think there's a different level to what Will Anderson is and Trayvon Walker is. To throw that out there, I think Trayvon Walker is worth the first round pick for sure. But again, like, he's part of a great system. It's easy to flourish. I think he's going to flourish again because he's got all his the boys are back in town. But I am okay with where he was drafted. I don't want to make too big of a deal of that. Because again, when you're looking at but Will Anderson, buddy from Bama, it's just it's clear as day that guy's going to be a top 5, at least top 10 overall pick. So that's kind of where I stand with that.
Or Ginger's got a question here for you. What do you think about Forbes going over Gonzalez? So we're talking cornerback, and you played corner, so you could appreciate the position more than some. So yeah, let me ask that question about how you feel about, because the Patriots actually benefited, I believe, from Gonzalez falling. We say falling, but he was still picked in the first round, but he just had to wait all the way until, let's see, where was he picked at? Right here, 17. Christian Gonzalez comes off the board. He's the second best corner in the draft. And apparently, that's what they're saying. And then you had to wait until, I guess, only the 5th overall pick for Devin Witherspoon. So, and then Forbes went over him. So what do you think of these cornerbacks that were drafted? Who's your favorite? Where would you put them?
Forbes is 166 pounds. He is he's wiry. I mean, a lot of guys are gonna say he's like 170. Like he's skinny. So like if you're gonna be that, you need to be absolutely locked down. He does put his head down there. He will come up and produce some run support. But that it's a little bit of a reach for me. I need someone who's like, I know that body's gonna last. And I know that might sound a little outdated because just because you're big doesn't mean like anything, because we now know that mobility and flexibility and having that, just being flexible and not getting too tight is really good for longevity in the game. But I think Devin Witherspoon is a clear number 1. If you watch his tape, he is always getting a guy upset by the third quarter. No one had their way against him. Again, he didn't go up against the most primo talent, but he was my favorite going into it. Joey Porter would have been my 1A. After that, I would probably have to go with, but not a deep. There was it's a really low, really high floor, but I'm not sure how high the ceiling is with this cornerback draft.
Yeah, I mean, we're also getting kind of spoiled with the recent years. I mean, we've seen um out who was Houston's corner that they got last year? It was like early. I'm drawing a blank right now. Sauce Gardner goes to the Jets. Sertan goes to Denver. There's just been a lot of I said this, if you can get like two cornerbacks that are going to be the top 10 corner in the league in every draft, the NFL is going to keep, they're in great shape. If you just consistently bring in two new ones, like I know you're a Jalen Ramsey guy, Florida State, but it's almost crazy. Like he's at the point now where if you're doing a top 10 corner list, he'll still probably be number one. But now there's some new guys on the block that are going to crack that list, like Sauce Gardner, Sertan. I believe Sertan is the best corner right now in the NFL. I mean, the stats show that, but it's almost based on the last 5 years. It feels like two of these corners are going to be studs, and we just got to figure out who they are. Because is a corner that do you think corner is when you put a draft grade on a corner, it
Mm-hmm.
works out? Because I feel like corners work out more than any position. Like if there's quarterbacks that are ranked high and they suck, right? And then corners are
Cornerbacks are if they are that guy. If we're projecting, no. But if you're a Patrick Surtain, yeah, because it's one-on-one. He's already going up against the best. And then there's just certain things to look for. Like, are they going off hips or are they going off ball? So
yeah.
basically, are you able to actually play off of the man in front of you and not and be able to stay on top of them if everything else around you stays the same? And
Yeah. I was gonna say one last thing. I value children like Joey Porter Jr. His dad's Joey Porter from Steelers, right?
yes,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because I just assumed because he's a junior and a same name. So whenever I see the son of an NFL football player, I'm higher on them normally than like that means something to me because that means that this guy grew up with money, and money means that he had the best training at a young age. And I value that because look, we saw
I like it to
Sertan's dad,
I like it to an extent. If you got a guy like
CMC.
Joey Porter, I like it because I bet you there was at least 2 weeks out of the 2 days out of the week where Joey
Stingley.
Porter made his children eat with their hands and not with utensils because he wants to keep that. I don't know if you know a lot about Joey Porter, the people watching, but Joey Porter is an old school linebacker. Like I said, he doesn't care if his socks matches. He eats with his hands. Those are the guys they're not making anymore because they can't run with the 4-3 running backs out of the backfield. But when I think of linebackers, I think of Joey Porter, Ray Lewis, Dick
Urlacher.
Buckets. He fits it. He's what you want, a dying breed. But with that being said, like, yeah, I want that. I want that. I want a guy that came with nothing and turned that into being maybe a Hall of Famer. I'm not sure. He's got the Super Bowls for it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But
Deion Sanders said the same thing when he got to Boulder. He was like, I want my quarterback to be a two-parent home, good grades. I want my defensive lineman to, single mom, almost the opposite, single mom, food stamps. And he got
yeah,
he got
certain
a lot of
things.
he got a lot
Yeah.
of shit for it because they're like, that's generalizing, which it is. But like I heard something from you once, like 7 years ago, that always I've stayed with. It was a quote you said, and you weren't even trying to quote anything. You just randomly were driving on the phone, and there was a minivan driving slow. and you're like, fuck, minivan, move. And you're like, that's why they're stereotypes, because they're real. Fucking minivan, driving slow, doesn't know what and I was just like, yeah, that's why they're stereotypes, because they're real. I always thought of that. It's like, you're not trying to say, you can't have a guy branch out of that. But if we do have to put a bow on this thing, minivans drive slow. All right. So I think I get what you're saying. Like Joey Porter, that old school mentality. It tells you a lot of that's, you know, like guys that are out there barking, like physically, like
Yeah.
barking on the field. That's what I want. I want my linebacker to like be kind of dirty.
If I can't see him doing one of these after a good play, what are we really doing?
Yeah.
And we're about to get in a lot of trouble right now with two white men generalizing right now. So I hope you're ready for this. I'll ride the boat with you. But
well, let's keep it going. Denver drafted a white cornerback in the fifth round, and I was gonna ask you about that because it was asked immediately to Sean Payton. ESPN said it on the draft screen because I said it, and somebody was like, "Can you say that?" And it's like, "Yes, we can all say that. We can say that a white cornerback got drafted, and yes, he's the only one in the NFL really since we had homeboy I was telling you about earlier. What's his name? Jason Sehorn. So yeah, why wouldn't we talk about it? I just don't understand.
Unicorn.
Jason Unicorn. So yeah, what do you think of this dude? I don't know if you got to look at the videos I sent over or not.
I did.
What's your take on him?
I think that he is straight line speed. Where he's going to get hurt is change of direction, and being able to stay with that intermediate game. With the double moves, and just being able to stay on hips and to not get turned upfield. So we will see. I think he has a good idea. See ball once the ball's in the air, if he's in position, I like him a lot. It's just a matter of is he going to be twitchy enough and laterally quick enough to play at that level on the outside, especially on a dime at the nickel position. But to be honest with you, I didn't watch too much. But on that note, Marvin Mims, your other guy, I did re-watch some stuff. Obviously, his last game was against FSU, so that was a good first watch on him. I think he's kind of going to have some of the same issues as the white corner from Iowa, to be honest with you. Because here's the thing, it's almost like it's the same exact thing because they are fast in a 40, right? But they're slow starters and their lateral quickness is not there.
Yeah.
So their top speed's there, but it takes them 20 instead of 10 or 5 yards to get there. So what you'll see with Marvin Mims is he'll bust for like 20-30 in his highlights instead of all the way because he hasn't hit his full burst speed at that like almost 20-yard moment right there. He's still trying to fully get into, as opposed to Judy where it's 2 steps and he's out of the gate. So I think he's going to be a really good receiver. Again, once ball's in the air, he's really see ball, get ball. He can go up and locate the football. He has really good body control, can get both feet in really good. They did use him in the screen game a decent bit at Oklahoma. Again, he's good to get you like at least 2 yards. He's nice and physical. I'm sure you've heard it. He's getting all the comparisons to Emmanuel Sanders already.
Yeah.
He's 2 inches taller than Emmanuel Sanders. I think they have about the same length, probably about the same length. He might have a little bit given he's 2 inches longer, but pretty close. So man, I sound so repetitive tonight, but the players are kind of high floor, low not saying low ceiling, but we'll see. But they know what they're going to get out of this guy. He's going to be able to run crisp routes for you, get enough separation to where you know those short hands are going to be able to bring it in. He's a tough nosed guy for his size. So you can, like I said, they use him in the screen game. He's good with putting his head down and fighting for an extra yard. And that plays in today's game. The game is getting smaller. Bigger, faster, stronger is not the thing. It's bigger, faster, longer now. If you just look at the game, it's really what it is. You don't want your guys all juiced up. You need them fluid. You need them rangy, and you need them being able to pop. So
we need some long ones ready to pop.
Yeah, absolutely. If you got range, if you are this long but can keep it in here until the last minute and use it effectively, that plays. We're not seeing too many bodybuilders anymore, obviously. So I think that he has a good chance of being a solid player. Again, there are so many good receivers the past couple years that have come out. It's like a really flooded, oversaturated market. I think we're going to look back in 10 years and we're going to have some guys about to retire and be like, man, we got 7 Hall of Famers about to retire at the receiver position. Really talented. So we're going to see if he makes a name for himself in the NFL. But as far as being an effective player for the Broncos, I think he can do that pretty quickly.
Yeah, and people that don't know what they're talking about came on or went on Twitter and were like, "Oh, Jerry Jeudy."
I need to get myself a charger, so I don't die on you, and I'm gonna get some more water too. Give me 30.
I thought you meant a sports car. But people immediately said, "Oh, he's gonna come in and replace Jerry Jeudy," and I'm like, "No, he's not. He's replacing KJ Hamler." 2 or 3 years ago now, the same draft that we drafted Jerry Jeudy in, we drafted KJ Hamler, who is the best receiver at Penn State, and he was supposed to be our quick guy, and he still is. When he's healthy, he's good to just literally run straight and get separation just based on speed. Safeties can't keep up with him. He gets behind them, and he's amazing, but he's just been injured, and he had an ACL injury, and then he was out for the whole season. His grandma passed while he was injured and got really, depressed, and it kind of, affected his performance on the field. Then last year, they had him on a snap count, and they weren't really playing him. So then finally we go into this year and we think, okay, this is going to be his year, and he ends up hurting himself training outside the facility. So he's going to be out for this year. So Denver's basically drafting Mims so that he will replace KJ Hamler. That's where he's going. We're getting Tim Patrick back. So the receiving core will be Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, and now Bibbs is going to be added to that group. So I feel good about this receiving core, to be honest. I feel like this is a good group of people. But there was a guy in the 3rd round that I wanted more than any of the guys that we drafted. I like the Drew Sanders pick.
And a minivan.
And it was Devon Achane. They say A-Chain online, but I went on Texas A&M's website and it has the pronunciation and it said chain.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if you ever depend on Texas A&M education for anything in your life, you're going down a really slippery slope there, brother. It is A-Chain. I was making a
Jimbo Fisher is the head coach for Texas A&M, and he betrayed Florida State on his way out. So
it's way past that. Have you seen the Friday Night Yell thing that they do?
No.
It is downright culty. For anybody who wants a good watch.
That's what college is. It's a cult.
Oh, no, brother. Culty, like
fraternity.
real. No, past it. I'm from a football diehard that loves watching all the weirdness on College Game Day. They get together at 12 a.m. and they go in the stadium, and they have the most bizarre guy wearing. They're like called yell leaders or something, and it's these guys, and it's almost like they're from a more simpler time type thing.
What do you mean? Dumb?
I can't. It's borderline
Oh, gotcha.
down.
Spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys need to watch it just so I don't sound like I'm just making something out of nothing. It's called Texas A&M Friday Night Yell. It is absolutely insane.
Oh, that's weird. That sounds really worth the watch,
I would
though.
never let my children go to that school, just based on that one thing alone. It is very, very weird.
Well, Von Miller turned out all right. Different time, though. Different time.
Devin
That
Achan, that man is you want to talk about getting fast. He
yeah.
is not. He is not a slow starter.
No, that's why I wanted him. He ran
is.
like the third fastest 40 in the combine. I think it was a 4.29 or something. But no, it was like a 4.33 maybe. So anyway, I'm doing the draft live and I'm sitting here going, "Oh, he's still available," and I'm freaking out. And we're like 15 picks in, and I'm like hoping nobody picks him. And then it goes, Denver's moved up in the draft, and I'm like, this is for it, Devin Achane, and I'm freaking out. And then they draft Riley, and then the Dolphins pick Devon Achane right after the pick right after, and I'm like, oh my god. I just watched his tape, man. He's good. He's good. He's not
The word
great.
is he's electric.
He's electric. I don't see him as a 3-down back, but I see him as a guy that comes onto the field often and makes plays.
Yes.
So
You can use him even in the slot sometimes. He has decent enough hands
to put him in the slot.
Yeah.
So who's who drafted the Panthers drafted the safety from Florida State who he was ranked pretty high and then he fell all the way down to the 5th round.
Metric.
How do you think he's going to be in the NFL though?
Well, he's my sleeper of the draft.
Is he?
No, I mean he honestly, I don't know. I'm a FSU guy and an ACC and SEC guy. I watch Ohio State play Michigan. I watch all the games that I can, but I don't do any research on rosters. I don't look at any film of anybody that's not in the ACC and SEC unless FSU is about to play them. With that being said, yeah. I mean, just based on how late he went, I don't get it, man. 2-time ACC defensive player of the ACC defensive back of the year. One was honorable mention. I think one was first team. So just a solid player. He is an enforcer. He is a tone setter. And that's the biggest thing. You're going to get a guy that loves the game of football. He's competitive as hell. But I love the guy. I think we're really going to miss him next year on defense. I don't think we have anybody that plays DB that's as versatile as him that can go and play, again, at a really high level, can go play nickel and then go play nickel and then go back and play safety for you. That's special. I don't know. He's a really solid player.
Yeah, they NFL scouts kind of hold that in high regard if you can play even just on the different sides of the field. If you
I know this is like some things that you just don't see on the TV, but here's the thing. If you can have a guy that can go and play 2 different positions so you're not having to rotate guys out and you can be multiple with the same personnel, that is what coaches want. So with that being said, I didn't get it because that's what you want. You want to be able to show multiple defenses with the same personnel on the field. If you can have guys that can give you that capability, that's how you win football games, especially on defense, because you are being predicated by these fast tempo offenses most of the time nowadays. So I think he will be within rotation, being a player for the Panthers rookie year.
I don't know if you saw the Eagles acquired.
Ringo.
Well, yeah, they got.
I was like, that's the other dog you're talking about. Yeah, I did. I saw that. But who are you talking about?
I'm trying to see what. I'm trying to see what pick did he go. I think it was 5, and I can't see it on here. Keely Ringo, where the hell? It might have been all the way to the 6th round. Man, he really did fall.
Josh Downs. I like Josh Downs, even though it's easier to like him when we didn't lose to him because he was getting us a little bit. Very fast, very straight line guy. Pretty elusive. A dude that'll be able to contribute on special teams, I'm pretty sure, relatively early.
Yeah.
So I think Howell was made look good by Josh Downs more than once. So I like him. What did he end up with his last season? Let's see something here.
So yeah, while you look that up, this is what I wrote yesterday, and I kind of shared it, because it's just. Do you actually? Because I know you're pretty active on Florida State. Do you enjoy kind of like looking up people's stats and kind of backing up your opinions on people? So it's like, not just, oh, this guy's really good, but you can be like, this is why he's really good. Because when I looked into Keely Ringo, this last sentence I wrote is most important. For a while, it looked like the Eagles were going to lose Darius Slay, and Bradbury. Instead, they figured out how to keep them both on a 3-year deal that can turn into 2-year deals. The Eagles still have Maddox as their nickel. Keely can line up on the outside of both sides of the formation and as the nickel. And cornerbacks that can follow their assignments across formation are always highly coveted. So Ringo, I think, is going to come in as the nickel. I think that is why the Eagles picked him up. And when you just see what the Eagles, so the Texans picked number 2, CJ Stroud, and then they trade up to 3, and then they're able to get Anderson. And it's like, oh my gosh, nobody's going to even come close to that. But then you had the Seahawks, who were able to pick up the best receiver and the best corner, right? Which is something nobody did. They got Weatherspoon and Ohio State's Jackson Smith. So what I think is most impressive is that the Eagles, by the end of the draft, were like, even in the first round, it was like they might have had the best draft. They got Jalen Carter and Smith in the same first round, and then they're able to get Keely Ringo as well. And I say that because the Eagles went to the Super Bowl last year, which means that they pick on the bottom. So the Texans had a good draft. Yeah, of course they did. They sucked last season. So you know what I mean? So they're picking super high. But if you're going to a Super Bowl and you're able to improve an already stacked roster the way that the Eagles did, that is incredible. That is like, how did you get it? They're playing a different game right now. Their GM gets it. And then at the same time, they find in a way to bring in DeAndre Swift, for another Bulldog from Detroit.
Did you hear the phone call that it's Steinberg, right?
Yeah.
What's the Steinberg phone call with Walker? Trayvon Walker?
Wait, no. Walker went to Jacksonville last year.
Or who was the guy that went second in the first round for them? The second guy they got in the first round.
So they got Jalen Carter, and then they got Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith. I'm sorry, I was confusing Nolan Smith and Trayvon Walker. Nolan Smith. When he tells them that they're drafting him, it's absolutely insane. Again, I'm going to take a little dig at my rivals right here. He goes, man, I'm a Gator. Do you know how much I fucking hate picking all you Bulldogs? And Nolan Smith says, yeah, but you want to win though, don't you?
I got to see that clip.
Yeah, probably more than you know. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. Almost as cool as the one of the personnel for the Detroit Lions had the ability to tell his son, ask his son if he wanted to come to work with him the next upcoming days, because his son was getting drafted, being the running back for, who was he? He was a solid player. I should know this.
What? How many years ago?
Oh, this just happened. This just happened. The Lions running back draft. I forgot his name. I'm gonna look it up really quick.
DeAndre Swift?
No, this year. Lions.
Oh, this year it was Alabama's running back. It was Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs.
Oh, that wasn't it. Who was the team then? Sorry. Really nice stale time on the air.
There was a running back that his dad asked him if he wanted to come to work with him because he's the coach on the team.
It was okay.
Him.
Deuce Vaughn from Kansas State.
Oh, I love Deuce Vaughn.
Yeah,
5'5".
I love. Yeah, amazing player.
I was talking about him yesterday.
Yeah, his dad is a staffer for the Cowboys, and his dad is the one, instead of the GM or the head coach, anybody, his dad is the one that makes the phone call. And he goes, "Hey, son, my phone's dead, so calling you from work. How'd you?" He goes, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Son, how'd you like to come to work with me?" He gets all choked up, and I forget exactly how he says it, but definitely a good one of the cooler football moments I've seen in my 31 years. So
that's wholesome. You know, Surtain's dad went to the first football game that his dad, I guess Surtain's dad played a season for the Broncos or something like that, and his first game was his last game was in Denver Stadium, and Surtain's first game starting was in the Broncos same stadium. So his dad's sitting on the very front row, and it's like my last and your first are in the same stadium. And Surtain gets a pick six and walks up and hands the ball to his dad. And I was like choked up. I was like,
sports are pretty cool.
Sports are really cool. And his dad had a pick six in his last game. You know, it was just like, wow. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. But yeah, I think the Eagles are definitely going to end up going back to the Super Bowl and winning, especially after Hurts is locked in as their guy now for the next who knows how long. I think the deal was 7 years, but I think that was smart of them to go.
That team plays for that guy. And if you're curious of why, well, despite the fact that they can all play ball at a really high level, they are trying to create the locker room environment of a highly competitive college team. That is not happening by accident. They want a locker room that plays for each other, that plays for team. And it's kind of hard to artificially create that from dudes that all come from different places, except your own commonality trying to win a Super Bowl. These guys have rapport together, and they are each other's keepers already. So to have that kind of thing, everybody else on the defense is going to have to fall into line of those guys. They are now the standard. So that is a really good thing to have when they are all in on Jalen Hurts. That's a really good way to have a locker room that's hard to mess up when it's player driven with dudes that really know how to win.
I totally agree. And building a culture can be really difficult when you're only getting the best players available. But like Jerry Jones is the kind of guy to just, they end up being very diverse, but he'll just take the best player available. Where other coaches, once you've established a culture, it's an interview process. It's like getting a job. Like, we're going to take you if you meet the criteria where we know that you'll be good for our culture. And when I was a kid, I used to play 2-on-2 at recess, and I was like very serious about playing football. And the guys I were playing with, between plays, they would be like running in circles, going, do the loop, de loop, and pull, singing that SpongeBob song. And I used to get
Oh,
so pissed off. Like, let's go, like, line up, let's keep, we got to squeeze. And I found like nobody was taking the game as serious as I was, even at a really young age. So I've always been able to appreciate somebody that takes the game very serious. They're not just like, whatever, I'm athletic. Somebody that just loves football so much. And that's why I fell in love with Jalen Hurts. And before the season started
let's throw out the word loved, because a lot of people love aspects. Let's say obsessed, because that's a really important distinction there. Because a lot of people think they're doing everything because they do love it. You know what I'm saying? Because you're thinking about it and stuff, but you only love parts of it. If you really love it, like, you're going to be obsessed and you're going to put in that work all the time. And I think that's what you're getting at. For everyone else listening, I just kind of want to make that distinction.
like I love football.
Yeah, but I'm talking about at like playing level, like if you were still involved in like
I don't think so. I think the fact that we started a channel here shows you how much somebody can love football. It's like every day
Are we talking about producing on the field, or what are we talking about here?
No, I was saying I love a player. That's what I'm saying. And I was saying growing up, I loved football. I loved all the aspects of football.
Oh, God.
And yeah, like I actually had Tyler do an interview with the Packers, and he was like, yeah, you're the reason I started loving football. I was always crazy about football. I would spend hours in my backyard throwing passes to myself to try, to get better, because nobody wanted to play catch with me. Like, you got to really love. You would throw? I'm talking like young,
Yeah.
Like when I was 5, I got a Packers uniform with the little helmet. And I used to go out when, in the middle of winter when it's freezing in Wisconsin. And I used to like how my breath would come out of the helmet before I would call plays. Like, those are the moments that, you love something. I've always loved football. And when I really study Jalen Hurts, he does a lot of things that people will say are cliche. And it's like, no, he just loves football. He loves the parts of football that some people don't love. He likes putting in the work. He likes the film. He's the leader. He is what a quarterback should be. If you had to print one out, he is just everything that I would want in a quarterback. And last year, we were in the preseason. I was like, Jalen Hurts is going to probably win MVP. The Eagles are going to win a lot of football games. And everybody was like, that's a really bad take. And then he had his breakout season. I'm like, dude, you talking about a guy that got benched at halftime in the national championship, and it didn't affect him. He continued. You know how many people that moment would have completely destroyed their career? Like,
whether they admit it or not, it would be really hard for them to keep confidence. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's just, I do think he's a top 3-4 quarterback right now. It's like Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and then give me Jalen Hurts. And not in any order. I could win with any of them,
For sure.
So yeah, dude, I'm a big Hurts fan. I would have paid him as quick as they did too, because like Lamar, he gets, his big contract. And to be honest, I like the moral of Lamar's story, but on the business side of it, I don't really like it. I think Lamar's the best that they can do right now, but he got paid what his value is, I guess. But he's not
you have to keep him though.
He's not the best quarterback. Yeah, you
have to keep him, because here's what we talked about. How many quarterbacks are better than that guy? 6, maybe. Like in the world, how many guys are better than that guy? Maybe 7. Like, we can number him if you want to, but he is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And he does certain things that you have made your offense about that can't be replicated. You're going to have to do a whole revamp on your offense. And the guys love him. The guys love playing for him. unless there's something I like. All the players love him. I like Lamar as an FSU guy. Come on, like as an FSU guy, I like Lamar. So it's
I
hard for me
like
to say.
him. I just don't feel the same way I do when it comes to that guy's going to lead our men. Like when you talk Jalen Hurts, I'm like, yeah, he will. He'll get the job. Like there's just something about Lamar where, you know, and this might just be a bias thing.
I don't think that it's a leading thing. I just think there's certain things he can't do at that point in the game physically, because you're going to take away that run and the ability at certain spots in the field and at certain times in a game, and that's where it gets more difficult for him. So I agree with it, but I don't think it's a mentality. I don't think it's a leadership issue. I think that's tool bag more than anything.
Well, yeah, for me, it's not even the way somebody plays on the field. It's just the way they carry themselves. And it's almost something that if you were to say, tell me what it is, I would say, it's something I can't measure on performance. It's just Jalen, like the guys are playing for Jalen Hurts. Now, there might be guys that like playing with Lamar Jackson, but what are they supposed to say? We had a lot of quarterbacks that were very bad in the last 7 years. And Von Miller, all of our guys were like, oh, yeah, he's the real deal. Joe Flacco's amazing. Like, what are they supposed to say? No, we suck. We need a guy that can play quarterback, So I just kind of look at it and I'm like, yeah, the best thing the Ravens could have done, in my opinion, is traded Lamar Jackson to the Colts or traded him to the Texans. And that would have been good for the Texans. And then the Ravens could have drafted CJ Stroud. Here's what everyone forgets. John Harbaugh is an amazing coach. Amazing coach. And people don't realize the influence an amazing coach has on a team. Look at Daniel Jones's jump that he made with Dabble. Look at Ryan Tannehill going with Mike Vrabel. Look at Russell Wilson coming to Nathaniel Hackett. It's very important, and I just don't see John Harbaugh as a guy that would be completely handicapped if it weren't for Lamar Jackson. And if you look at what the good teams are doing, like look at the Eagles, they weren't paying Jalen Hurts. Look at the 49ers. They're able to have almost probably the most talented roster in the NFL with a guy that was picked in the last round with the last pick. Look at the Chargers, able to get the roster going, but they're having coaching issues, but still not paying Justin Herbert. Look at the teams that have the highest paid quarterbacks, the Packers, the Broncos, and now you have the Ravens. It handicaps you. When you have to pay a crap ton of money, it handicaps you. And I do feel like the best thing to do is if you have a quarterback and you want to lock him in for the future, do it how Kansas City did it. A 10-year deal, $500 million. And right now, Kansas City Patrick Mahomes is like the sixth highest paid quarterback, even though he's the best, right? Because everyone has to kind of top these deals. But if you just look at who makes it to the playoffs, most of the teams are players that have stacked rosters because they haven't had to pay their QBs yet. And, that's worth something. That even if it's just taking a step back and trying to, analyze that, these high paid Deshaun Watson, we'll see if that works out this year, but, he didn't look that great last year when he did play. And Kyler Murray, the Cardinals were one of the worst teams in the NFL the year that they paid him all his money. It's interesting because everyone wants a quarterback. But my thing is, if you're going to handicap yourself by paying him, you got to be so sure that this guy will succeed if you don't have weapons. If you don't have, if Patrick Mahomes' 4 receivers last year all equaled less than what Tyreek Hill made, and they won the Super Bowl. So you gotta say, okay, I'm locking him in. Not going to be able to pay a bunch of people, so this guy can get the job done. People are saying Lamar's not great. He's only won he won maybe one playoff game. I'm not sure, but he's never gone like to an AFC championship game. And people are like, he needs weapons. I'm like, if he needs weapons, then you don't have the guy. You need to Like even Aaron Rodgers, he only had Devontae Adams, and people are like, he needs more weapons. I'm like, he doesn't get new weapons. He's making $50 million a year. You take a team friendly deal like Tom Brady, you get Randy Moss. Like you have to pick one, and I think a lot of people want both. They want that their quarterback to get paid, and they also want their team to go get DeAndre Hopkins. And it's like, it's not the way it works. The only players that can afford those deals, like Miami with, Tyreek Hill, haven't paid Tua. So to me, I look at it and all you have to ask yourself is one question. Can Lamar Jackson win Super Bowls, plural, without a stacked roster? And I don't think so. I don't think so because we don't even know if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. I think availability is the biggest skill in the game. So, yeah, you can't win if you're not there. That he does have to be able to prove that. But that you got to be able to prove it, and that's going to take time. Again, I'll say I think you could trade if you wanted to, but you've spent a lot of resources and time in this man because you thought he was the guy. So you don't back down now. He's coming up into his prime years. You give him the best you can on the offense to protect him, on the offensive line to protect him, and you get a defense that's not going to lose you games, and you go with that. Yeah, I think you are drafting a quarterback in the first round, first overall, second, for a guy like that can put you in a position to win the game the way that Lamar Jackson can.
Yeah, and he's only had one season where he played 16 games and he threw for 1,200 yards. Okay, that's not impressive. But then you go to 2019 and he won NFL MVP. And this is the year everyone points to. But you look at yards throwing, he threw for 3,127 yards. Jalen Hurts in his second season almost threw for 4,000 yards. And I tell people, I'm like, he's not equivalent to Jalen Hurts. And he's not equivalent to Joe Burrow or Mahomes. And yet somebody's going to pay him, obviously, but let a desperate franchise do it. Like the Browns deal with Deshaun Watson, he wanted that kind of a deal. And it's like, look, the NFL does not follow what the Browns do. Okay. They're not the gold standard of how to operate a football team. They're like the opposite of that. But ever since he did that, I don't think we realized the implications it was going to have moving forward from quarterbacks. Because then you had people like Lamar Jackson that were like, I want mine all fully guaranteed. And it's like, look, the Browns, they did something no one's done before because they're the kind of franchise that would do it. And there's franchises out there that would do that with Lamar. I'm just surprised that a functioning organization and a great head coach did it, you know, with John Harbaugh and those groups. But I hope he proves me wrong. That was his best year. He threw for 3,100 yards, and then he went 2,700, and then 28, and then last year 22. Only played 12 games the last 2 years, so about 70% of the season, maybe. It just, I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like he
yeah, but
peaked in high school.
what I would say to that is what do the tight ends and the running backs have in receiving yards compared to the rest of the league? Because it's not even about the rushing yards, which I know he's got to be top 3 in the NFL every year in quarterbacks, top 5 in rushing yards for quarterbacks, but him being able to make them accountable for him every play is gonna get those running backs open and tight ends open, and I know they use that a lot. So it's dump offs and but gets it out of there.
He's played in 4 total playoff games, and he has 5 interceptions and 3 touchdowns.
Oh, That hurts.
in all of his playoff. And it doesn't say how many they won. I think they only won one, and that was against the Steelers, I think. And with Ben Roethlisberger at the end of his line, but it seems like I wanted to bring it up because we haven't talked about it, and plus, it's a really hot take right now because people are emotional with their takes. So they, this like the problem kind of with the world today is like it can't be both things. It has to be one, so pick a side. And it's like I'm happy that Lamar got the deal and paved the way for other players, and I think it's a bad deal for the Ravens. It's both. It really is. And I'm getting a lot of heat, on the internet for thinking Lamar wasn't worth, more.
He's gotta prove it. But good on them for believing in their guy, and thank you for the best ability is availability. That's what I was looking for. So thank you for putting that in the comments there, Ninja.
Yeah, Ginger said, I remember shoveling off the basketball court when it snowed so that I can get extra work in. I feel you, Kyle. Well, the way these contracts have loopholes allows you to front or backload contracts so it doesn't go against the cap. That's where the Chiefs and Eagles big brained everyone else. But that's because Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes agreed to those contracts because they wanted, like, they worked on that. The first thing Jalen Hurts said when he got paid, and this is why I love him, he said, the money's cool. Super Bowls are cooler. He's like, I love that. There's no off button. He's just so focused and dialed in all the time. I love that. Manning took the max every time compared to Brady taking a cut. They're both in
And,
the same cloth. They're cut from the
isn't
same
that
cloth.
it doesn't I'm sorry, but doesn't that just sound so, and I know we are the out of touch people. Oh, this money. A very limited lifespan on an NFL football player. Get as much as you can while you can get it. Totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it amazing how a guy can take maybe 3 million less or however much less he took while it's still getting 3 times whatever you didn't take, which is millions of dollars, and you're going to be labeled as that humble dude. So it's pretty cool. You
Who?
get Jalen Hurts. You get to have your cake and eat it too, because he's making millions and millions of dollars, and he's still
He's
seen
the
as the
highest paid per year, but he worked. I'm just talking about fully guaranteed. That's kind of what handicaps the cap. So like
yeah.
once you do the fully guaranteed, so they
I'm
were.
agreeing with you. I'm just saying it's you can do the right thing and still make a ton of money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's the way to go, especially if you're trying to get your brand out there. I'd be all about my PR.
Absolutely.
I would. That's why I love the post game interviews. And I'm like, what would I say here?
How good is this PR team?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
And that's
the
why Marshawn Lynch was such a gem to all of us, because they were non-existent.
I didn't like it. I didn't. I like Marshawn Lynch as a person now that I know him, but when that was all going down with the media, I was like, I didn't appreciate it because I'm like, dude, you you you
You know
get
what,
paid the
man?
money you get paid because fans are obsessed. Like I'm obsessed with the Broncos, like you're obsessed with Florida State. And not to say like you owe us something,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it would
But
be
here's the
pretty
thing.
damn nice if you could say something about the game because we're watching,
Can
you
I
know?
can I can I tell you something though? Do you know how much I would just wear that as a T-shirt if a Florida State Seminole said, "I'm only here so I don't get fined," implying I'm not here about all this extracurricular BS. I'm here to play football and win a Super Bowl. Ooh, buddy, that is barbecue on Sunday right there for a diehard fan. So I get what you're saying, but
But say
also
that
he
then.
knows what he's
Then
doing.
say that.
He did. He did. In the most real sense of it. In
That
the most
sentence doesn't elaborate anything. And he's basically
it's
saying, I
exactly
don't owe an explanation to you or the fans.
when he was saying here, he's obviously talking about all because it was Super Bowl week and he's going through all these interviews and taking all these pictures. He's saying, I'm only here so I don't get fined. Obviously, he's not talking about the Super Bowl itself.
Yeah, because he was doing that before the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, he did, but he didn't do the fine stuff. But he's
I'm
always been
blessed.
very
I'm
yeah.
blessed. I'm
Yeah.
blessed. It's like,
I, I
it
didn't
takes
get that one.
more. It's like it takes more work to pretend you're working hard than to work hard. It's like it takes more effort for you to have to do that than just answer the question. If you don't like it, say next question.
Yeah.
I
I
just I don't know. I felt like it was
I understood the fine one more. The blessed one I kind of forgot about till you brought it up, and yeah, I don't know. Whatever. But
yeah, it's just like, all right.
whatever.
He's Ginger said, I love Lynn. She's like Nate Diaz to me. I'm available on Sunday, so availability is an ability, but isn't the best ability like people say. Hell, my grandpa is available. Well, I mean, that's that's a stretch. I mean, I if you're an elite player,
You wouldn't be with that schedule.
yeah, we have to start with the common ground that every player is elite. Now we can say the best ability is availability.
And they're
Um,
going through 2-a-days and doing all this stuff to keep their body at the most elite and upright level.
before we close this thing, is there? I wanted to. I don't know. I told you we were going to talk about college, but underdog, steal, guy in the first round that you absolutely love, whatever you got. I wanted to give you the floor to tell me, if there was any picks that kind of stood out. You know, a guy that maybe was taken in the second, and you're like, this was the best player, and nobody really kind of feels that way.
Uh no, the best player in the draft didn't go number one because he was going to like double the speed limit, and it involved someone dying, a fatal accident. Um, but he's the best player in the draft. It's not really that close. If you look at what he can do, just being able to big dog, um, what number 5 for LSU, their quarterback. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name, Jaden Daniels. Just being able to one hand him the way that he did, it's just kind of insane. Um,
Who do you think his NFL comparison is?
um, he's a more twitched up Ndamukong Suh.
Okay.
So just a complete game wrecker, but better at the pass rush level.
Shorter than him. I think Ndamukong Suh's like 6'6", and he's 6'3".
Okay.
But yeah, there really hasn't ever been a defensive player more dominant in my lifetime than Aaron Donald.
Yeah, Aaron Donald's great. I just don't see as far as frame and everything. I think they're different. It's the way that they.
6'4". Ndamukong Suh 6'4".
Okay, there you go. The way that they play the game, Donald's all about leverage and getting people over their knees, um, and not being in a good football position, and then either running through them or going right underneath them off the side. Uh, why am I forgetting this young man's name? The guy that got drafted.
Nolan Smith?
No, the first one, the big boy that I'm talking about here.
Will Anderson Jr.?
The one that went to the Eagles' first pick.
Oh, Jalen Carter.
Jalen Carter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking of them. Yeah, the Jalen Carter is not that. He will push aside the strongest man on your offensive line and wrap up the running back with his other hand. So he doesn't need to use technique as much. He's just gonna manhandle you. He's a man's man. He's gonna play immediately, and he's gonna play in the NFL barring injury for a hot minute.
Will he be better than Hutchinson? He was the number 1 overall pick last year to the Lions.
Oh, different positions. Hutchinson is an end. And then we're talking about a defensive tackle.
Well, okay. Do you think he'll be as disruptive?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, we're talking about you're basing what Hutchinson's doing as far as getting to the quarterback, and Jalen Carter, you're gonna see in the run pretty much every down. But again, you're gonna notice him in the pass game because of his ability to violently push a dude to the side and go upfield.
Those guys must be so happy that they fell to 9. It's like, oh, you were gonna go number 1 overall. And it's like, yeah, and go to Carolina. I'm an Eagle. We're going back to the Super Bowl.
I get the kid to sign a paper, Green, that he will never drive a car when he gets picked up or when he plays for my football team. You will have a
Uber.
ride system worked out with the franchise. You will have a personal driver or something. Yeah, you're not driving, bud, but we're taking you 2 overall if you're cool with that. You will get the same package you would get for any player that would be in your position. The only thing is you ain't driving. We're gonna save you 7 draft spots. We're gonna save you 11 draft spots. You're dropping, buddy. You're not dropping with us, but here's the kicker. What do you think? You sign that, we're taking you. And I'm doing it because that's the only reason it did happen. That guy should have been taken number 1 overall.
Well, the Panthers moved up because they wanted a quarterback. So, and Houston needed a quarterback too. The only reason he was going to go number 1 is because the Bears had the number 1 pick and they have Justin Fields. So they were like, yeah, let's get the best player. Carolina moves up and they're like quarterback. But then that 3rd pick, it was Houston moving back up. They got Will Anderson instead of Jalen Carter, and then Devin Weatherspoon, and then Paris Johnson, offensive tackle, and Tyree Wilson, another defensive player, Bijan Robinson, and the Eagles are like, yeah, we'll take the highest value on the board here at 9, and then they literally play the same song and get Nolan Smith at 30, and you're like, how did a team that just went to the Super Bowl pull that off? Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl. Burt Berger, I interviewed Burt Berger. He's a Raiders fan, unfortunately. And he's here and he said, yeah, the Raiders are still mid, buddy. Raiders, not impressed with the Raiders draft. Yeah, I thought the Raiders did pretty decent with their draft, unfortunately, for me as a Broncos fan. But Michael Mayer, to pick him up in the 2nd round was really good. And then in the 1st round, they were able to get Tyree Wilson. They should have gotten Jalen Carter, but they went with Tyree Wilson, who was the number 1 rated defensive end. So to say that they didn't get better, I don't know. We got to see if Josh McDaniels can actually be a coach, or you could just have a lot of talent, not know what to do with it. Like the Gators, we were talking about that earlier. And then Ginger said Rug's story of the woman and the dog dying was sad as hell. So is the Carter stuff the parents of the other player that died is suing? When are we going to do the Colts superfan video? Well, I'll say, yeah, the Henry Ruggs thing was super sad. The Carter stuff, I don't think he was racing the car and somebody else died, so it's kind of like he, I still think it would have been a lot worse, obviously, if he was driving and she was in his car. But it's kind of like
there was no accidents technically, right? The other person that was driving wrecked their own car.
Yeah, it'd be like if you and I went ding dong ditching together and, you got hit by a car and I didn't. It would be like, yeah, we were ding dong ditching together, but how much do you punish somebody for somebody else's sin? You know what I mean? It's kind of a weird, kind of tricky waters to navigate. But yeah, the Eagles capitalized big time. And I don't know what the Colts superfan video is, Jinja, so let me know what.
And yeah, I hope this. Yeah, I hope this. Excuse me. I hope this doesn't come off wrong. I just wanted to be careful with my wording here.
Open dialect.
Can you imagine how many kids did something very similar to that at his age? I almost would have picked him because of that. You had almost a life-ending experience that probably 80% of kids, not to that speed or anything. I don't know how fast he was going. A lot of kids have done stupid stuff driving that they could have gotten in big trouble for. Is all I'm saying. And someone lost their life because of it, and that is terrible. But I'd be willing to bet that Jalen Carter's not going to make a mistake behind a wheel ever again in his life, and he'll be really careful before he makes a mistake in general off the football field. I'd be pretty safe making that bet. But maybe
Yeah.
maybe the millionaire CEOs have better logic than me. I don't know. Have a conversation with the kid, but I can't imagine.
He must be like, there's no punishment that they can give him than, the guilt that he might feel. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things where it's like, I can't imagine feeling, even though, you probably have to tell yourself, like, look, it's not your fault. But then at the same time, you probably have another part of you that's like, yeah, but it kind of is. But he had a blood alcohol concentration of 0.197, so more than twice the legal limit. And it just one thing that is really sad to me, especially after Henry Ruggs, it was like we had a moment when Henry Ruggs died where I believe people make mistakes, and I really do believe in second chances unless you do something really, really bad, like something I wouldn't even say on the show. You should get a second chance. But I think the most important thing is that people learn from other people's mistakes. And I thought that after the Henry Ruggs thing happened, I know Denver had a team meeting about it, and I'm sure most teams probably did. And then you hear driving, driving racing a car with alcohol twice the legal limit. It just kind of makes me feel like if people aren't stopping after the Henry Ruggs thing, you're just never gonna, this is never gonna go away because people drink and then they think that they can drive fast. It's sad because it's like, people like you and me are, that love the game. It's like if we were going into the NFL, you know what I mean? Like that would be enough. You know what I mean? It's like, it's always the people that are extremely talented that risk losing it, you know? And then I think that's part of that interview process where you got to see. And this was probably something that a lot of teams passed up on because they're like, you know what? As talented as you are, and people make that mistake a lot. Warren Sapp dropped in the draft he was so mad that he was not even smiling in his picture with the commissioner, and he proved everyone wrong. But his thing was different. He was he battery assault and then went to jail and then tested for weed, which nobody cares about anymore. But
fun fact: both Warren Sapp and Jalen Carter are from Opelika, Florida, from the same hometown.
are they really?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you heard.
If you want the beef on the defensive side of the ball, come to Florida, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know if you heard. Oh, Ginger, the pod with the fan from every team. Absolutely. I'm going to interview you. We're going to do a Colts one, and I'm actually pretty pumped for it. But did you ever, Jeff, Vicky and Jeff, my aunt and uncle?
Absolutely.
Of course. So
hey, just in case you like save these and you show this to, hey, Jeff and Vicky. I don't know if you're
yeah.
Love you guys.
He almost ran over Sebastian Janikowski.
Oh, goodness gracious.
He almost killed Sebastian Janikowski.
You shot Derek Jeter.
And he peed on Barry Sanders' shoe on accident. He's got some weird stories because the Super Bowl came to Jacksonville, and my dad and Jeff were working as golf pros, and those guys like Jerry Rice and stuff, they all came to the golf course, and I actually got to shake hands with Jerry Rice as a young kid. So, you can imagine that locked me in even more as a diehard football fan. It's like little tiny guy shaking hands with Jerry Rice. He had big hoop earrings in, His hands were huge, so big. I met Brian Westbrook, the Eagles' longtime running back, and it was a good time. But anyway, he peed on Barry Sanders' shoe, so I'm gonna have to get him to tell me that story again. But yeah, man, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, come up on 2 hours. They'd say don't go over 45 minutes. I say BS on that, but coming up on 2 hours, we're pushing it. I
Yeah, I'd
do.
say our longest. It depends what we're talking about, but our deep dives are about 2 hours, but our regular ones are about an hour.
Hey, I don't know like what your fan base is over here. If it's just kind of random, but
Random.
pretty random. So if you guys want to chime in, because this was a lot of fun. I would like to come back. If you guys would like to have me. So if you guys are more into like the ACC or the SEC, or if there's a lot of Florida people in here, like the big three, consisting of like Miami, Florida, Florida State, guys, just let me know and give me some topics. I'd love to talk a little spring ball. We can get that going, and just preseason projections should be pretty fun with Florida State this year, who
Not that broad. Everybody's NFL.
perfect. Okay.
No.
So
We have like an inside joke where someone's like using a reference and they start talking about basketball for an analogy. We like shut it down. We're like NFL.
nope,
It's called only football, but
only
we don't
NFL football.
really talk about college. But obviously the draft is a kind of our time, and you're a really good source around this time. I would like in the future to talk before the draft, talk during the draft, talk after the draft instead of
Absolutely.
doing it after. But if that's something that the guys are interested in, doing a college football episode, um, let me know. We have Colts fan, but maybe maybe they would be interested. They just only talk about NFL because we only talk about NFL. That might be one of
Makes sense.
those. So yeah, just put it in the comments. I would love any excuse to have you back in here. So during college football, we need Jake once a week. Will bring us closer to knowing who is who in the draft. Yeah, I think it would be nice to net because it's a lot of cramming.
And,
But
and if you guys have a particular team, like drop it, and I'll look at all of your draft picks, and I'd be happy to give you my projection just to kind of tell you who I think to what to look for going forward in the season, or whenever you get some playing time with them, whether it's the preseason camp or just the first 4 games that don't really matter, but you get to see a lot of people play that they
yeah,
called the
I think
preseason.
Jinja is a Notre Dame fan. I'm guessing because he's in Indiana and he's a Colts fan.
Cool.
But Jinja Ninja. Did you say who or cool? Oh, he's a Buckeyes fan.
I said cool, but yeah.
My family are a bunch of Ohio fucks. Well, it must be nice.
You got probably the best receiver coach in the not probably you got the best receiver coach in the country with Brian Hartline. So
Look at that.
they're gonna
Look
be
at
good
that.
for.
Just facts, just sitting in the database.
Oh no, that's anybody should know that they're gonna be good for a long time with that guy as the receivers coach. But yeah, unless you got anything else,
The fireman's ass, right? Yeah, why would a firefighter stick his finger up his own ass? A firefighter wouldn't do that. there was something you said
tracks.
no earlier when you were like talking about jail or Porter. He had to eat food with his hands. I was like, and you didn't get it, so I had to. I can't help it. We do movie references here. We have a good time here.
Yeah, we keep it light. We keep it breezy.
But all right, man. I'll let you say bye first, and then I'll wrap it up.
Okay, yeah. Well, thank you guys for having me again. Go by Jake. So, anytime you guys have any questions, just reach out to Kyle, and I'll get back on here, and we'll keep it going.
Hell yeah, brother. Thanks for coming on, and I'll see you soon. See
All
ya.
right, go Knowles.